I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. I am so excited that we're all in the same room. This is awesome. So, this is our Franklin Court meeting. It is 11 o'clock, 11:05. Let's go around the room and do introductions. Oh, come on in. People with it. During that. Yeah, right. Joe, do you want to start? Or just go?
I'm Joe, Sherman County.
My name is Dice, I'm Regional Solutions Coordinator. Serving in Wheeler counties, and this is my first in-person meeting in 2 years. So if I do anything that's like not proper, that's what I'm saying.
And you say the expectations are high.
Yeah.
One more is County. Rick Schaefer, Wheeler
Tammy Gaston, Sherman County.
Jody Bird, Sherman County.
Justin Miller, Sherman County.
Liz Farrar, Campbell, Gilliam County. Sherry Wilkins, Gilliam County.
Shannon, County.
Kaylin Lane, Chamber of Commerce Executive Director, Gilliam, Sherman, and Wheeler County.
Teresa Aldridge, Gilliam County.
And Brett Attig, Foundry Committee.
For folks on the Zoom, can you introduce yourselves as well so folks in the room know who's on?
Catherine Griner, City of Condon.
Ryan LeBlanc, Sage Technologies.
Leslie Rourke, instant person down at Rock Creek in Gilliam County.
And Amy is our Gilliam County's juvenile director. She's just listening in. All right, you put public comment on here, so I'll go ahead and open that up. Individuals wishing to address the county courts, you do so at this time and at other times throughout the meeting. Speakers are asked to raise your hand to be recognized by the chair, give your name and address, and limit comments to 3 minutes. Anybody have any public comments? Pretty informal, so as we go, folks have comments. That's fine. Let's get into the agenda. Are you starting with Brad?
We are going to start with Brad.
Okay, so we had Brad. I didn't say hello earlier. I'm Liz. How do you say your last name?
It's Attig.
So Brad Attig from Reinventing Rural is going to be talking to us about innovation in rural economies. And I'll let you kind of explain to us what Reinventing Rural is and all of that.
Absolutely. Let's, Caitlin, let's figure this out here. So we have this, and then Caitlin, how will we share screen?
Sure, so we'll click share screen.
Okay, and then my
first.
presentation.
I think we have to make him a co-host.
Well, if whoever's logged in there, then you should be fine. Because we're just using.
Oh, it's a whole thing.
Pick my presentation. And then hit present. You are so good. You should be in tech.
And for folks who are in Zoom and Kathleen, do you want to introduce yourself real quick? Okay. We already did introductions.
I'm Kathleen Katz. I work for Thunder Riding out of the brand, and I'm essentially the mascot. I work with Nate a lot.
Welcome. We're excited to have you. Take it away, Brad.
Well, hi, everybody. So we're here to talk about rural innovation, how you support entrepreneurship, and how do you make impact in small and rural communities. So I'm Brad Attig, and I'm with an organization called Foundry Collective, which the name doesn't mean a lot, but our initiative is Reinventing Rural, and I'll tell you a little bit about that. So we're a nonprofit that's focused on helping small and rural communities create local capacity and really support startups and early stage small businesses, Main Street businesses, or whatever they may be today if we can leverage technology. We know that the days of smokestack chasing are probably behind us. So we're looking to say, how do you grow things locally that have an opportunity to really be successful, not only in the local market, but to reach larger markets? We also are partners with co-starters, and I'll talk a little more about that. About myself, I'm fourth generation Oregonian. I grew up in a small ryegrass town in Willamette Valley called Harrisburg, Oregon, about 950 people. When I was going to school there, 43 people in my graduating class, grew up in the house I was born in. And then I moved away, okay, and I went Fortune 500, and I was in San Francisco with Macy's, and Minneapolis with Target, and in Chicago with Montgomery Ward, and in New York City with Citibank. And came back here about 10 years ago, and at that time I'd been involved in kind of this fast scaling tech business, Uber, Airbnb type world, and came back and started driving around to the communities that I grew up and loved to come and visit. So we deer and elk hunted in Spanish Peak and the Ochocos. We fished the John Day and the Chutes Rivers, and pheasant hunted in Vail. I started seeing what was happening in some of our rural communities, and that really kind of changed my perspective and started really saying, how do we keep our small communities healthy, and how do we grow them? How do we make them great places to live? Because they are great places to live. How do we make sure that we're not losing our youth out of these towns and small businesses that stay open, and you don't have that cycle of a business comes in and then the storefront's open for 6 months and then it's closed, and et cetera, et cetera. So I come at this from that perspective. And I always start to talk about innovation because most people don't view rural as hubs of innovation. And that's unfortunate because they are. In fact, almost all innovation in the United States up until the 1950s came from rural. It was all done in manufacturing. It was done in agriculture. And these were incremental improvements. And then somewhere along the way, they started measuring innovation based on number of patents per capita. Okay? And number of engineers you have in your community, number of post-secondary degrees, and lots of funds raised and other things. And rural kind of is not necessarily in a lot of economic development circles considered innovative. We all know you're innovative. I know rural's innovative, but a lot of people don't think of that. So Penn State did this study about latent or hidden innovation. And I love this because they're not looking at the traditional measures. They're looking at measures of innovation based on jobs created and other things that are happening. And there's a whole bunch that goes into it and gets really wonky. I did add in that link if you really want to go through and read that report. But what is interesting about it is that they found that counties with higher innovation scores have greater unemployment and income. And then also, if we understand what innovation is happening in our rural counties and our rural communities, maybe we can leverage that a little bit better and be a little bit more informed about how we spend our funds. So what's great about this report is they did every single county in the United States, okay? So I dug through, and of course they don't name the counties. They have some weird code, so I had to figure out what that code was, and I found them. But positive numbers are positive and negative numbers are not as positive, okay? We'll just say it as that. So Gilliam, Sherman, and Wheeler have a lot of latent innovation based on these measurements. Your neighbors, not so much, okay? So I pulled this up because I wanted you to take a look, and you might say, hey, we think this county is really innovative and cool things are happening here. But based on the measurements of this, they may not be keeping up with you. And I thought it was really interesting when I looked at this, Gilliam, Sherman, Wheeler, 1.97. That's almost at the same level that Multnomah County's at, okay? So whether you agree with the metrics that are used in this, if you want to dig into this report, there's a lot of advanced differential equations and all sorts of really, geeky stuff there. But if that's your thing, I would encourage you to take a look at it. So innovation propels small communities. Okay, we know that small businesses are the drivers of our economies. We know that there's about 3.7 million micro businesses. Those are 5 employees or less. We know they create a lot of jobs. We also know that COVID has probably closed about a third of the small businesses throughout the country or rendered them inoperable. They may still be, doors may be open, but they're not making money. They're relying on either grant funding or they're relying on personal savings or something to keep those doors open. Something else, younger generations are much more inclined, okay, to create side businesses, and side businesses create real businesses. Everybody now has a gig. Someone almost everybody I'm talking to is selling on Etsy, or they've got something they're doing, or they're roasting coffee in their garage or something. And our younger generations are much more inclined to do that. So rural counties are looking at this flight of youth and younger people moving away. It's a way to keep them. It's also a way to attract people back that may have moved away and are coming back and saying, I want the lifestyle, I want the school districts, I want the community, I want what these locations offer. And they can come back, and then a lot of times they'll have side gigs that could potentially, with the right amount of support, become full-time gigs, and they become Main Street businesses. We also know that if you give small businesses help they need, they're 30% more likely to be successful. And there's a whole about unlocking the digital potential, and I know there's a lot of money being thrown at broadband, but I'm not talking about just having broadband. I'm talking about training and educating people on how to use digital tools that are available even today to make your business visible to people that are driving through your community. Also, it's real interesting. I have an intern that I've been working with in Burns, Allie, who now just went off as a freshman to college in Arizona. But, we did a lot of Zooming back and forth, and I was always saying, well, you click here, you do this, you do that. And she goes, I don't see that. Well, you know what? In her 4 years of high school, she didn't use a laptop or a desktop. She used an iPad. Okay, so we have a whole generation coming through that looks at things differently than we might be looking at too. So we're going to deliver workshops and curriculum or instruction or whatever. We've got to be prepared to know that people may be doing it on their phone or on a tablet versus a desktop or a laptop. So there's more to digital potential than simply getting broadband everywhere. Regional outcomes: embrace your creative communities, embrace your artisans, your makers, and your creators, okay? Creative placemaking is important. You'll hear that word a lot. Perk up when you hear it. Communities that have higher percentages of creatives have higher average income, lower levels of poverty, higher medium incomes. They also add the value to your community where people want to stay or possibly move to. So how is innovation different in rural versus urban? Well, in urban, it's a collective effort wrapped around patents. You have universities, you have big teams working on stuff. They're trying to create something entirely new. It usually doesn't solve a community or regional need. When Airbnb launched in San Francisco, it wasn't because someone said, our community has so many unused bedrooms, we have to figure out what to do with them, okay? And it rarely solves the founder's problem. Jeff Bezos, when he launched Amazon, wasn't having trouble buying books, so he decided to start selling them online, okay? So that's how innovation typically happens in an urban community. In a rural community, it tends to solve a personal problem, a consumption. I can't get it, so I'm going to make it, okay? Or I'm going to start roasting coffee because there's no good coffee around here. It's a linear, incremental improvements. I want to figure out how to do something 5% better, okay? Because that will make me 5% more money, or it will save me 5% of my time, and I can use that for something else. It's problem solving versus disruptive. Uber is disruptive. They decided that they would convince you to use your car so they could put taxi companies out of business. Okay? It matters to the community. It creates jobs, it provides services, it changes your culture, it creates new products where there were none in the past, and you have different challenges than urban. So since it's different, how does it impact rural entrepreneurship? So innovation is coming up with the idea, and entrepreneurship is figuring out how to make money. Okay, so a lot of small businesses don't consider themselves entrepreneurs, but in fact, small Main Street businesses are some of the most entrepreneurial people out there. They are changing things constantly. I'll pull this forward. I'll put this out on the sidewalk. I'll offer a new type of energy drink. I'll do this or that. That's some of the most entrepreneurial activities we have. So when I talk about entrepreneurship in rural, I want to talk about small businesses, Main Street businesses, garage-based businesses, basement-based businesses, or whatever they may be. And again, rural businesses, they don't build around innovation, but they embrace innovations. They don't come up with something entirely new and then build a business around it, but they use innovation in some way, shape, or form to change what they're doing, okay? They mostly rely on jobs that are performed locally, so that's good for employment. They tend to focus on local and then regional needs, and this is what's so exciting about this group is, as a region, you can leverage your strengths of each of your counties in a way that you're bigger than each individual part when you come together. They make local markets, okay? Typically, You're going to make a local market, and then you're going to need some help to reach either a regional market or a statewide market or a global market. And our friends from like Business Oregon are always talking about traded sector. I like to say that when someone drives through your town, they stop, they come in here and they walk upstairs and they buy something from one of the artisans, makers, or creators up here and they leave, that's traded sector without shipping costs. Okay? So we don't have to worry about how to get it to them because they came here to get it. So the Center for Rural Entrepreneurship, which has rebranded itself to another name, did a study and came up with 5 C's. And these are, I think, really important. Culture. Does your community support innovation, entrepreneurship, and risk-taking? Or does it say, oh, that won't work, that's been tried before. Okay, they'll be gone in 6 months. Does it support that? Is there connection? Can you connect people with resources? Is there a network within your region or your community to connect people? Because there may not be the expert here to help me with what I'm trying to do, but there might be one in the next town over. How would I know that? How do I get connected with them? Chambers, by the way, are really good at things like that. Capability. Capability is about, are people getting the training or the help that they need? Are you building their skill set so they can better manage their business and grow their business? Capital, we always talk about capital. I will tell you that I don't believe capital is as important for early stage startups as people make it out to be, okay? And then climate. Is government getting in the way, or is government creating an environment that says we can do this and this and this and we'll get out of the way and let entrepreneurs be entrepreneurial? Everything has to come from the top down and the bottom up at the same time. And I want to go back just to capital. Capital is usually not capital, it's usually capacity. Okay, I'll give you an example. If I'm making my grandmother's famous Mary and Berry jam, and everybody says you should start making that Mary and Berry jam and sell it. Well, I can make it and sell it out of my, at a farmer's market or something. But if I want to sell it to the grocery store so they can sell it, I need a commercial kitchen. It's going to cost me, even if I have a kitchen in my house and I don't have pet dander and all those problems, it's probably going to cost me $20,000 to get it set up. And if I need a commercial kitchen, it's $50,000. Guess what? If there's a shared commercial kitchen that I can access for those 2 weeks or 3 weeks out of the year, I don't need that $50,000. But if there isn't, I need $50,000, okay? So it becomes a capital issue if the capacity isn't there for me to find my way. So I advocate trying to figure out what, almost handicap on-ramps are for businesses, as opposed to our stair-step type approach now where I need $10,000 because I need a Glowforge because I want to do laser engraving on shot glasses for people's weddings. That's a $5,000 piece of equipment, but I'm going to use it once a week, once a month, twice a week, whatever. What if there was a Glowforge sitting here and I could just come in and rent it for 4 hours? I don't need $5,000, I need $50 to rent it. So what do rural entrepreneurs face? Kauffman, which is one of the largest foundations that focuses exclusively on entrepreneurship. They're out of Kansas City. They funded us for a couple of years through a Kauffman Inclusion Open grant, and we're very grateful. There's 6 things. One, they think rural entrepreneurs face, and this is through one of their major initiatives, a culture that does not support entrepreneurship, enough demand to justify support services. So what do I mean by that? If you only have 5 entrepreneurs in the region, there's not enough demand to get them the resources that they may need. Kind of a chicken and egg problem, because when you think about the absence of other entrepreneurs, you can't grow entrepreneurs without giving them the resources they need to become entrepreneurs. But if you don't have enough entrepreneurs, no one's willing to write a check and pay for something up front for only 5 entrepreneurs or 2 entrepreneurs or 12 entrepreneurs. Okay, so there's a problem here. You can't grow your market of entrepreneurs in your community because you're not willing to pre-fund something because you're like, oh, that's going to cost us this much, and they're not worth it, or we just don't have the funding. So be very careful about that. The distance to market and services, gaps in available credit. It's really hard to get any kind of startup funding in rural communities. And the absence of industry clusters, which is kind of an outlier. We think about having competitors as competition, but in fact, having a cluster of like industries in an area actually makes brings every boat up, okay? Silicon Valley is a perfect example as a cluster of software technologists and engineers. They bounce around from company to company, they share ideas, they build off each other, and they built the entire thing up. So we don't have that. The first three are underlined for a reason, because all of you can impact that. Okay? We can't pick Condon up and move it closer to Portland, nor would we want to, right? Okay, we're not going to change the capital access today. You know, we might get more CDFIs, community development financial institutions. We might find other ways to help get capital to these communities, but it's a longer part of the road. And we're not going to build an industry cluster tomorrow. We're not going to suddenly have 5 pellet mills in your counties. So who needs to be at the table? One of my favorite ones. Businesses, community, right in the center. The community has to support innovation entrepreneurship. It has to be open to saying, we are going to embrace and we're going to patronize and we're going to support people that are trying new and different things. Capital, we need some money, we know that. Market access, we can fix some of that with online and everything else. We need some startup companies, and we know that if we don't have a lot of entrepreneurs, we're not going to get a lot of business assistants. If we don't get a lot of business assistants, we're not going to have a lot of startup companies. Innovation Labs is my favorite. Boundary Collective as an organization is built on a theory of change that says if we can create small innovation hubs, Main Street innovation hubs, this could be one as part of a chamber where people can come together and get access to resources and community and collaborate in rural communities, that these will have oversized impact. So we support Launchpad Baker in Baker City. We support Ignite LeGrand in downtown LeGrand. We support Spark Collaborative Studios. We're working on helping open a location in Greensport. We're looking at one in Coquille. We're looking at one in Brookings. Both Coquille and Brookings is being supported by a banner, Beacon Broadband. So it's being supported by an effort. Beacon Broadband is owned by Coos Curry Electric Cooperative. We love working with cooperatives. So everybody has to be here. Oh, and then government support. Okay, government has to support this. You have to invest in this to make this circle work. Or you cannot invest in it, but I would recommend you do. So what can we change? Well, we can make entrepreneurship cool. Okay, we can start talking about it. We can start pointing things out. The social legitimacy of entrepreneurship is important both to get people to form intentions and to act on those intentions. What does that mean in English? I'm going to start a job. I'm going to start this business. I started it. That's all it is. People have to feel good that they'll be supported in their ideas, and then knowing that they'll get the support when they in fact sign that lease, buy that piece of equipment, set up that Facebook page, whatever it may be. Community engagement. Entrepreneurship is completely linked to how well the community as a whole, Okay, the gift baskets are here.
Yeah.
Okay. It's linked to cultures that support individual initiative and some amount of positive risk taking. That should, in my mind, be relatively easy for people in rural because you are the epitome of risk takers. Look at where you're living, okay, in a way. I mean, and I'm looking at this from lenses, remember, from some urban lenses and other things, okay? Individual initiative is a hallmark of rural ruggedness. And then entrepreneurship leadership development. And so this is one of my favorites because what happens, and I've seen it in a lot of communities, is you have a group of concerned entrepreneur people that want to make a change. They're almost always volunteer efforts, okay? And what happens with volunteer efforts? They peak, they plateau, they burn out, okay? And until we can start to find ways to support these volunteers that are the first to the frontier of trying to create entrepreneurial things and find ways to backstop them with organizations that have capacity and staff to help support these efforts, we're not going to really change the trajectory of a lot of our rural communities. So entrepreneurial leaders are the people that will do a meetup event, or they will host something, or they will organize and put banners up, or they will help launch an initiative that nobody else wants to do. Unfortunately, without support, they burn out. So how do we do it? Well, tonight I'm going to Fossil, okay? And 30 people showing up to talk essentially this same presentation, just from a slightly different perspective, to engage a group of community leaders and community residents about entrepreneurship and innovation in Fossil. So the first thing is we have events and identify who's out there trying to start things. A couple of years ago, right before COVID hit, I was in Hefner. And I was invited there because they were looking at a building downtown and they were going to convert that into kind of an innovation hub. And then they had a bunch of entrepreneurs at the Chamber of Commerce who would walk into this building. I mean, it needs a lot of work, but they had funding to do it. And they were like, and we're going to put kind of a commercial kitchen in the back with blast freezers. And, you know, my mind is like, what do you need blast freezers for in Hefner? Okay. So we go through this, and then I go and I start talking to this group of about 12 people. I'm like, what are you doing? And so I'm going to start, and we just got on this new bike route. So we're going to launch a bike shop because we don't have one in town. What are you doing? Well, we've got a space right outside of town. We think we can set up kind of an Airbnb for the bikers as they come through. And we went through it, and there was someone there. And then I said, what are you going to do? And he said, pheasant pot pies. Now, I have a rule. I got it from the Pope. Who am I to judge? Okay. And at its peak, the Pet Rock sold $100,000 a day. Okay, so there are no such thing as bad ideas. Okay, and I was like, okay, pheasant pot pies. Tell me how. Well, it's got a pheasant hunting location there. People are coming in from all over the United States. They were shooting their pheasants, didn't know what to do with them, so their camp cooks were cooking them up into pot pies, and they were freezing them and taking them home. Well, he'd found a source of pheasant meat from Minnesota. He had his pheasant pot pie recipes down pat, okay? Found that, I believe it's the Willamette Pie Company or something, had a truck coming through Hefner that was almost empty, a freezer truck coming through Hefner was almost easy, so he could load it up with his frozen pot pies and ship them down to PDX, and he was going to put them on a plane and ship them over to Japan because pheasant meat in Japan is a delicacy, okay? So we had this whole supply chain thing worked out. And however, on agricultural land, couldn't put a commercial kitchen on his property, so he needed a commercial kitchen that was somewhere else. That's the blast freezers. There was a couple there that was going to start a coffee roasting company, and I will tell you, you can buy their coffee right up here now. Okay, so these are the kinds of things. Find who's out there and support them. The next step is connect the starters with a larger community. So you mentioned Reinventing Rural. We always knew that every rural community wasn't ready for like a physical innovation hub. Couldn't support it, couldn't quite get there. But we always knew we were going to try to launch something that was more virtual, and then COVID came along, which accelerated that. So we have a platform called Reinventing Rural, and that platform is technically equivalent to a private Facebook, okay? You don't get any ads, you don't get any cat videos, I'm sorry. But it's essentially where you can go on and you can become part of a community. We've created groups on there. Some of those are secret, some are private, some are open groups. We have a women's entrepreneur group there. We have an artists, creators, and makers group. We've put up recordings of a bunch of workshops that we delivered over the last year and a half, thanks to Business Oregon and some of the CARES funding for technical assistance. And we're building that out. We have about 400 people on the platform right now. Probably needs to get to about 1,000 to really become vibrant, but it is a way that we can connect a larger group of people. So I can connect someone here that is looking to make hard cider with Bandon Rain, who has is making hard cider from cranberry farmers that have launched a hard cider company. Next, how do we do it with capability? I mentioned co-starters. Okay, it's very important that people feel as if they can succeed in order for them to take that step to take the risk. And Co-Starters is a program that started in Chattanooga about 18 years ago. I think Walter Cronkite once said Chattanooga was the dirtiest city in America. And they realized that there wasn't a lot of support for early stage startups, particularly Main Street businesses, traditional, what they call traditional, or they call them non-traditional startups, okay? Because everybody talks about startups as things like Airbnb and Amazon, Uber, and all of these things. So they call them non-traditional startups, but in reality, they really are the traditional startups. I'm gonna launch a rest shop downtown, okay? I'm gonna start roasting coffee. I talk a lot about coffee because I love coffee. I've had it plenty too, by the way. So Co-Starters is a philosophy, and it's also a curriculum. And the curriculum is based around the lean business model canvas, which is typically used for fast scaling startups, but it's been adapted for starters. They've had 19,400 people go through their program. They had incredible success rates after the first year. We have this going right now in both Harney County and in Northeastern Oregon. Lisa Dawson is delivering it, Executive Director of NEOEDD, Northeastern Oregon Economic Development District. And Andrea Latham is our Treasure Valley Community College SBDC business consultant in Harney County. She's delivering it there, and tomorrow night I'll be going back to Harney for, I think, week 5. So we have 9 or 10 entrepreneurs going through this. This is not only for starters, it works for people that may have a business that is stalled and need to repivot their business, or even people that might be considering adding something, because if you're not doing online and you add online, it really is a new business. It's not just an extension of your existing business. And what I love about this is that it's not the traditional business. Here's your 3-year business plan spreadsheet. Here's your marketing plan, and here's some things you need to know. It augments the work that's done by our small business development centers and other people in our communities. And it's different, and it's more visual. So it works really well for people that might be in that artisan, maker, and creator. So it's a more visual way to look at your business, and it focuses a lot on the customer and a little bit on some of the other things, but it really focuses on helping you move through there. I think 65% of the graduates that have been successful are women. It's got a lot of BIPOC participation. We were able to bring it here. Anybody can do co-starters. It's not like we have a lock on it, but co-starters is a little bit challenging to administer. So what we stepped in and said, let us be the back office of co-starters and help support communities like Harney County, which is 7,700 people, or like what's going on in La Grande and in Union County and Wallowa County particularly. So we provide a lot of the support. People that are delivering this have been trained, they're co-starters, facilitators, and it is a facilitatory program. It's not a teaching program. So it's a wonderful program, and we're excited about it. And we would love to try to bring it into this region one way, shape, or another. But how do we do capital? Here's an interesting thing that we are just beginning involved in. Peer-to-peer lending, okay? All right? Now, there was a lot of effort a number of years ago about trying to do local investing. So we have the Oregon Interstate Offering Exemption. Businesses can raise up to $500,000 without going through the SEC, with a very simple process here in Oregon. We're one of 27 or 32 states, I think, now that have that. But it never took hold, okay? It didn't get supported. So that was where I could invest in your coffee startup or your jewelry business or your Main Street apparel business. Peer-to-peer lending has been around for a long time. How many of you have heard of Kiva? It's a secret. So Kiva is primarily about investing in you loaning money to small businesses out there. Most of those have been in third world countries. That's how it started. But there's Kiva US. Anybody who is trying to launch a business or has a business in the United States could do a Kiva, could put a Kiva loan. It's kind of like a GoFundMe. It's kind of like one of these things. You have to write up your little story about yourself. You post it there. You have to kind of get some of the pre-funded, which is how it's the social capital. It says, okay, I've got 10 people willing to invest $25 in me. I've been investing in Kiva for a number of years. I've invested in every Oregon startup that I ever see on Kiva. I invest $50 here, $25 here, $75, $100. Jeremy Mueller, who is in Dexter, Oregon, was a worker on a farm called Excelsior Farms, which was part of Excelsior Cafe and several other cafes. Jeremy wanted to buy the farm, and but he knew when he ran the numbers he was going to need to double the amount of land that they were farming, and they're a organic, small scale market farm. He was going to need to double it. He needed more water. He needed a 400-foot deep well. He needed $10,000 for the deep well. Again, a capital issue, right? Because he doesn't have enough water. So Jeremy did a Kiva loan for $10,000. Okay, got the well put in, bought the farm, and is doing really well now. And this has been like 4 or 5 years. So the kinds of things that can happen. So we're working on creating a Reinventing World team where we would lean in and help someone figure out what pictures, what's their story, what's their marketing, what are they trying to raise. Maybe we can get them to go through co-starters, which would be a really good validation of what they're doing. And then reach out to 100 people in the community and say, hey, will you all throw $25 into this? Okay. Now, what's also is great is we have some big institutional investors that will match your money. Okay. Sometimes 2 and 3 times. So sometimes if $3,000 worth of people, if people invest $3,000 and trying to raise 10, Bank of America or someone else will step in and fund the rest of it. The payback rate on these loans, I haven't had a single loan default in the 10 years I've been doing Kiva. The payback rate is like 99.7%. So there is a way that we could start doing some small loans to people that are trying to start businesses in rural communities. You'll hear more about that. And then obviously the last one is, how do we do it with climate? I want to talk a little bit about High Desert Partnership in Burns, Oregon. So High Desert Partnership is a nonprofit that runs 5 or 6 collaboratives, soil and water, wildfire, and 2 of them is the Youth Entrepreneurship Collaborative and the Biz Harney Collaborative. We've been working in Harney County for about 3 years. When we got there, they had 1 family, maybe 2 families move back and bought a couple of buildings and started renovating them, but there wasn't a lot going on in Burns 3 years ago, okay? And Burns is one of those towns on Highway 20, if you don't know to turn left or right, depending on which way you're coming through, you miss downtown, okay? And you're heading off to Salt Lake City or Bend. So we leaned in, and the first thing we did was we helped support Spark Collaborative Studio. So that was 3 businesses who had rented a big building to run their businesses in and had about 2/3 of the building with nothing to do. It now has an artisan maker creator space in the front. Everyone's a member. You pay $40, $50 a month, and you get to put your stuff somewhere in there. So they're supporting 45 or 50 makers, artisan creators, similar to this, but more formalized. Okay. And then what we did was, obviously COVID hit. So we launched Spark Mercantile. Spark Mercantile is an online site that would have done $27,000 this year in online sales of the people that are in Spark Collaborative. Spark Collaborative Studios now, because it's got so much retail in it, can no longer provide like shared workspace and small office space and cubicles, which was what it was supposed to be about. So we're actually looking at a building 2 doors down now to try to launch something that's more for that. And I think we have the Portland Audubon is going to take a space there. I believe that the Friends of Malheur. So we're going to support some nonprofits in this other space. And then out of the blue, we decided to do Shop Harney. Shop Harney is a community gift card. Okay. No organization. I was talking to Andrea at SBDC and Tori at Spark Collaborative and said, hey, I found this really cool thing called Gifty. It's an online digital gift card. Let's try it there. Okay. So we didn't have any permission. Okay. No organization backed this. We didn't have any funding. We sold $127,000 of Shop Harney cards. And since we launched this a little over a year ago, we've had about $65,000 worth of those cards redeemed. It's just an app on your phone. You go in, you show it to someone, they type it in and they pay. Almost every business in Harney County is taking it. You can buy a Shop Harney card and stay at the French Glen Hotel. You can go out to Crystal Crane Hot Springs. You can pay your water bill. The city takes it. Both of the cities take it. Burns and Hines both take it. So you can pay your water bill, your sewer bill, whatever else you might want. The local hospital bought, instead of buying Visa gift cards, bought Shop Harney cards for Christmas gift. The Burns Paiute Tribe bought $25,000 worth of cards and gave it out to their people instead of buying Amazon cards and things. That's money that has stayed in that community. Okay. And we have a number of larger businesses who have sponsored it. So like, the buy one, get one. So if you buy a $50 card, you get, because they, the car dealer, they take Shop Harney, but you're probably not going to go buy a car with Shop Harney cards. But so the Ford dealership will throw in $5,000, and what they get is this advantage of saying, hey, if you buy a Shop Harney card for $50, you get another $10 for free, thanks to the Ford dealership. Or Grocery Outlet, who right now is locked into a credit card processing system that they can't do manual card. They're changing at the end of their contract so that they can do that. So it's one of these things we did, and that's been a collaborative effort there where this overarching organization of High Desert Partnership has really helped make that happen. They have helped us with some funding on some other things. And they've invested in small business entrepreneurs. So how do we do it? Well, one of the things is you have a tri-county chamber effort here right now, okay? And the possibility of this being a growth partnership. We are partnering with the chamber on a Business Oregon ROI, Rural Opportunity Initiatives, grant application, which I believe today and tomorrow they're scoring them. So we'll see what happens with that. There's a regional Oregon Main Street effort. We do a lot with Oregon Main Street in rural communities and trying to figure out how to make, how to make them work. So we do a lot with Sherry. The program that's in place right now with this, trying to build this collaborative Main Street effort, is a pilot program. It's the only one in the country happening right now, because you have to be at a certain size or scale to really fit into what was the Main Street matrix or grid. And that was excluding a lot of smaller communities. So this is a really unique opportunity. And Main Street doesn't always change things. And I'll give you a perfect example. Reedsport. How many of you have been to Reedsport at any given time? Reedsport, you drive through Reedsport, okay? It's not a destination. You might go to Winchester Bay or further down or something, but it's got a beautiful Main Street, about 3 blocks, okay? It's had the ODOT work, as I like to say. It's got beautiful sidewalks, nice benches, really nice lights, doesn't have any more wires hanging over. Most of the building facades are redone. It's 70% vacant. So the ODOT thing came in and it was nice, but it didn't transform that town because there wasn't any of the other parts and the tools going on, like, community gatherings, entrepreneurial support. There's no SBDC there. The SBDC is in Coos Bay, and you know what? Coos Bay kind of is like one of those black holes, in a regional situation. Coquille is exactly the opposite. Coquille has one of the dumpiest looking little downtowns I've ever seen. But they have the Sawmill Theater at one end, and they have the community center at the other, and they have 2 or 3 blocks that is begging for renovation, but just renovating it isn't going to change it any more than it did for Reedsport. So Coquille is in a little different kind of an animal. But the Main Street effort and the national Main Street effort is all about community economic development. Eastern Oregon Visitors Association, we have a lot of conversations about tourism. And tourism, not only from just bringing people through, but tourism is making this, how do you get people to stop in your town and buy things, okay? In Harney County, we did a Google My Business initiative. So, when you go through a town, you Google food near me and things pop up, okay. There were 45 businesses in Harney County that had not claimed their Google My Business listings, or they were completely wrong, or they didn't even know they had listings or whatever. So when you pulled in through Bernstein's and you Googled food near me, several of the restaurants on Broadway, the Main Street, didn't come up. Okay, they didn't even show up on the map. Well, how can you find them? How can you get tourism to stop in there if you can't find them? So we did an initiative where we did several Google My Business workshops. We did one here not too long ago as well. We hired a local photographer to take pictures. Andrea went around, our SBDC business consultant, went around to each one and helped them get their pictures uploaded and show them how to look at their insights. And now you can go on and look at their insights and see how many people are finding them by Googling food near me, or pizza near me, or something, or propane. I'm an RV, I need to fill up with propane. I did that today. I had my RV here. I wonder if I can fill up with propane here. Nobody came up, no listings, okay? These are important things. And then obviously the Business Oregon ROI grant. So the grant, which is getting scored right now, has really 4 things. One is to create a strategic plan to drive locally driven small business entrepreneurship. Second is to really map the Tri-County ecosystem from a startup entrepreneur, so we know who's out there. So that's how we do these community type conversations. 3 is to get community to support, okay? To identify the entrepreneurial leaders, conduct some gatherings, do some workshops, start to bring some curriculum to play, and then bring awareness to the effort and the economic impact that entrepreneurship, small businesses can play in all your communities. How do you guys help? Well, you can fund it. Okay. Always got to be an ask, okay? 1, nurture and support the development of local talent, investment, and enterprises. Help foster the creativity, idea exchange, and entrepreneurship, and help connect. Another part is connecting residents with regional markets. Okay, so leveraging county connections across the county and beyond, and leveraging resources like we have with the regional solutions and our Business Oregon support to figure out how we can create even larger markets. But these things don't happen in a vacuum, and it does require funding. The Business Oregon, and I'm going to go off on a little bit of a rant here, so forgive me. The last 2 years, Business Oregon has given Genentech, biotech company, $1 million for 2 buildings in Multnomah County. 2 years, they gave $750,000 to an ROI program for 13 communities. Genentech is owned by Roche. Roche is a Swiss company, $68 billion Swiss company with a market capitalization over $358 billion. They do not need that $1 million. Okay? That's my rant. Thank you. Questions, thoughts, ideas?
questions for that?
Somebody's got one, come on.
What's it take to get somebody to go through that co-starter?
So the co-starters program, because we believe that it's really kind of, you've got to build a culture, we think it's going to take probably 3 cohorts in a community to really get it. One, you go through the first one, we're going to have some, missteps and some successes and some failures. The second one, you're going to have even more successes. You're going to be able to bring back people from the first cohort and use them as your entrepreneurial leaders for the third cohort. It's about $8,000 for a 10-week cohort. Most of that money goes back into the community because that budget is $2,300 for co-starters for the program. We take about $1,500 to help market and do the back end. So we're paying someone to deliver it. So we're paying a facilitator or 2 to deliver it. We're paying for the space rental. We're paying for the coffee and tea. So more than about 60% of the money actually goes back into the community. So it's an investment there. We have it in our Business Oregon ROI application for High Desert Partnership for Biz Harney. I think $25,000 to be, and that business, these ROI things end up being about 18 months by the time they actually get approved and get done. So about $24,000 could do, 3 cohorts in this kind of tri-county area. We are delivering the NEO EDD one that Lisa's delivering is entirely virtual. Andrea's is hybrid. So we do think there's also this ability to, deliver it locally from one location and have it, technically watch parties in 2 other regions. So we don't necessarily have to do it in all communities, but in a perfect world, it would be great to do a co-starters in each county in the next 18 months.
So I have a question about
Sure.
that. Lisa's a friend of mine, but I've never kind of gotten into the weeds on this. Do the co-starters kind of keep records on how many businesses they serve and how many people come out the other end with?
Yes, and if you go to, I put some links in my presentation, but if we go to our site, we've created some landing pages for Reinventing World. And I think we have some stats on here too that are pretty impressive. Their results are exceptional. So 19,400 entrepreneurs served, 300 communities, 1,200 leaders trained, so those would be facilitators, 65% of female founders. Just in 2020, okay, during COVID, 3,700 entrepreneurs went through it, 70 communities, 200 leaders equipped. They have about a 90% one-year success rate on this. This is a pretty significant investment of time and effort. It is 3 hours for 10 weeks. So it's 30 hours of your time, plus you get field work, not homework, but field work through this. So it's a pretty significant investment. And it isn't just going through this. That's not just it. You get connection with your mentors. Now, what's unique about this that we're finding is, because we're doing this hybrid and virtual, we have someone from, we didn't lay out any, you can't do it if you're not from this region. We got someone from Wairika, California. We've got a software technologist out of Lebanon who's, got great insight on a woman that's trying to start a honey business in Burns. I mean, we're beginning to see this cohort is gelling and they're supporting each other in a way. You're going to need ongoing support after that. You need to have access to business people that can help you with things. There is, at each one of these cohorts, you do bring in a local business person as a guest speaker to talk about something that they face, like, I started way too big, or I started really small, this is how I did it, or I didn't know how to price my goods, or I failed. Okay, failure is always a good one. We learn from that. So success rate is high across the board. And co-starters, I believe you can go to reinventingworld.com/co-starters. I think you can download their annual report from co-starters. So they do pre and post surveys. They're big on their metrics. Sure.
Right, and a little bit of context is that over the summer, I participated in a project focused on Blasco County and Dallas that was through the Center on Rural Innovation, that was created an innovation roadmap. And it wound up being like 6 bureaucrats on Zoom talking about businesses.
Sorry to hear that.
I know. And, you know, throughout the whole thing, I'm like, where are the businesses? And, you know, it seems like one of the things that I saw when I was working in this space in Eugene at the U of O was like, we had the skinny jean wearing hipsters wanting to do startups, and it was sort of business to business. Whereas in like Wasco County, I don't see those kind of, you know, the enthusiasts who are out there talking about the ecosystem, and I just, where do you find those people?
Well, that's where we do these, that's why I really advocate having these community things. You know, we're having roasted red pepper bisque from red peppers that Matt Davis grew, and soup and salad tonight. And, you know, a lot of the people that are signing up are people that have bought a building and spray, or they're trying to launch something or things. I don't think we have enough conversations. I don't think they know where to go, okay? They're there. I will tell you, in every single community I go to and I start talking to people, and they're like, oh, yeah, my brother-in-law has been doing something in his basement for a couple of years. I'm not too sure about it, but he's been trying to get it off the ground, but he doesn't know where to go. And in most cases, you play also, as an entrepreneur, you get ping-ponged around. Oh, go to the SBDC. Well, they don't do, you know, they're 80 miles away. Or go to the Chamber of Commerce. Well, we do this, but we don't do that. You should go talk to the Soil and Water Conservation. And you get ping-ponged around, and eventually I think you give up a lot, because I think our resources are inefficient, insufficient, they're invisible, and they're inequitable. Okay? And rural pays a price for all of those things. And I want, through, you know, coming out and talking, and look, I travel a lot and talk in a lot of small rural communities. There's a lot of entrepreneurs out here. There's a lot of people that have side gigs. Baker City, when we launched Launchpad Baker, which was originally Hatch Baker, and I was on the Hatch Innovation Board in Portland at the time. When we launched that location, 70% of downtown Baker was vacant. There's not a vacant building right now in downtown Baker, and they're beginning to renovate all the second story. Now, I don't believe the Launchpad Baker, Hatch Innovation Baker did all of that, but I will tell you, in the first year, people would stop and, you know, had bright colored banners. What is this place? Oh, we're here to help you, you know, connect with the resources you need to start your business. Oh, my cousin's doing this or that. And even about last year, I was there and I was sitting with Brian, who is the executive director, and I was talking about, you know, creators, makers, and innovators, and he's like, oh, I know them all. And I love statements like that, because no, you don't. He's, I know all of those people that are doing that. So we went to Etsy and put in the Baker City zip code, and I pulled up like 20, there were like 200 listings of people that were selling, and he didn't know most of those people. Those people are entrepreneurs, okay? They might like a chance to not be selling on Etsy and be subject to the whims of Etsy's charges and their changes and everything else. And they might have a Facebook group, or they might have something else. And we just don't know where they are. They're there. Now, what's unfortunate about Eugene is that we've seen the entrepreneurial ecosystem collapse in Eugene, because all of the people that were there driving it burned out and they left. Okay, we've seen Kate Harmon leave UO. We've seen Joe Morishek move back to the East Coast. We've seen Eugene Rain. We've seen, and that's in a city of 180,000 people. But yeah, you have Cal Buckler, and you have Anamosa, and you have all sorts of great things that have happened there that are early stage products that have launched through that.
Well, I mean, this was useful, actually, like 3 people I might talk to in the Dallas area. And I will say, just in defense of our little quarry process, that at least 3 of the bureaucrats have side hustles.
They probably all do, or they would like to, or they have a cousin or an aunt or a sister or someone else. No, everybody does. I mean, that's what we do now. It's like, and we start these side hustles, and one day you make a little money, and then you're like looking and going, what if I could make a little more money? And then one day you're looking at it saying, maybe I could do this for a living. How would I do that? We're all about helping get resources into communities like yours to support this, but it's got to be locally driven, okay? It has to be locally funded, locally driven, you have to buy into it, and you have to want it, because that's part of embracing a culture of innovation and entrepreneurship in rural communities. And it doesn't have to be far out stuff. You know, we work a lot in Warm Springs. Okay, well, all we're doing in Warm Springs right now is trying to help a food truck and a coffee shop, maybe a feed store. Because Warm Springs has 95% retail leakage. You have to leave Warm Springs to buy anything. Okay. Anything else? I don't know. How's my time?
I think that was wonderful. Does everybody need to stretch your legs, take a minute to have a break? do we want to eat? And I can talk while folks are eating.
I think that works.
Okay, yeah. Okay, we'll get the
Well,
sandwiches
thank you
out.
so much. I appreciate everybody.
Yeah, that was wonderful. And I will get lunch set up, guys. If you would like to go upstairs and check out the member boutique, while we're getting lunch out, this is a good time. There's also a restroom upstairs or just straight to the back. So excited to have you all here.
Dave, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. I did not know that, there were, four applications. Our good proposals, so. Story about. Well, I was gonna ask you about the co-starters. What's the difference between
Like maybe foundation. Small thing about. It's a different side, it's a book. So you think about yoga, the brain, and that philosophy, and
I don't think so.
yeah, and it's unfortunate. Because you see the burden of, but that's kind of, that's traditional, how do you say it? This is.
I heard a rumor, you want to be here. We have something more than.
Well, yeah.
We'll thanks, Justin. We're really glad to see her. I'm just ready if you guys want to get ready. Let's say you want to get ready. Lunch. Yeah. They took away our liquor store. I don't know.
I mean, I actually might send,
He does, and he was, I did a presentation to East Oregon, SBDC directors. You know,
And everything else.
Well, I'm gonna go driving now. There, I appreciated your presentation. We'll pour it and then roll into something. Nice to meet you.
Yeah. So you said that Warren County down to 600 gallons a day or?
That's what I heard, it's 1,200 gallons per day.
Well, yesterday when I talked to Kevin, he said it was 1,100. So it's down from 12.
Well, no,
Or,
yeah,
and see, so we're doing solution 32. And so I got it delivered yesterday, 6,000 gallons. And if we wouldn't have broke down, I'd have to bring another 6,000. We got two tanks up here, 6,000 gallon tanks. But I'm kind of waiting for them today to see where they go. 19,000 tanker, 3,000 gallon size. Seaweeds and the shovel.
just a moment.
There's a timer.
There's one back.
Depends on how quick you gotta go. Monster, I should have.
This building.
Just about 2 weeks shy of a year. Replace home. Now Tom's going back to the shelves. His time in California was short. Okay. Yeah, it was definitely walking in, I mean, it's the first year, it's a good conversation. Everybody knows what happened in the past. Is it for?
Yep.
I've been seeing a decent bucket on my house.
Where?
Right outside tomorrow.
I'm looking for the one that has the hooks going forward. There was one out there last year when I had the tag. But the only shot I had, I was big on the yard.
Well, I heard from Rosa, she goes, I wish I ordered more photos of Charlie. And so I said, why didn't you order more prints, right? Which ones? Well, yes. Just such. I want all that. It's so.
The only thing I was thinking.
But I don't know if we. Yeah. Hey, yeah, we're. Well, that's what we could always say. All the way through? Hopefully, well. I wasn't sure. Someone else might be more.
This is stuff over here too.
Cheers,
Let's
guys.
see, let's see. I know there's one. Oh my God.
Cute. I know, it looks kind of red over, it's my Brian's mom has her here, and she's like, please, have her be a redhead, and all I can see is sunburn. That's all I can see, It depends on eating, grandkids to watching her every other weekend, Brian's mom is taking her and watching her. Yeah. You can hear on the way, I'm not.
Wow. So we still need to do a shower for him. Yeah.
Are you coming to AOC?
I haven't put my name in there. Are you guys going? Are you?
Take the vote. You didn't stick to that last time.
No, I didn't. I don't know.
At the board meeting Monday, they said they were still gonna do it, and so I told Tammy, if you're comfortable, we'll do it, if not, don't.
I think they just heard we were kids at AOC. Yes, I know. How are you? Yes, hi. It's been a while. Last week, wasn't it? I think it was a year or so ago.
That was a great presentation, Brad. Thank you.
Welcome, thank you for inviting me.
That's Steve Smith.
I don't know that I've ever met Dawson.
I haven't either, so.
Oh, no. Then you start to
Actually, all the equipment was set up, and nobody was there. We were remaining.
Commissioner, you guys continue those housing conversations.
We're trying to put on the ordinance, we could-
It looks like this thing.
We're gonna go on with our agenda while everybody's eating, and Kaylin, I think everybody in the room already knows Kaylin, but asked her to kind of tell us about the plans for the Tri-County Chamber, which we're super excited about, and then also Gilliam County has, at least in concept, agreed to fund a small business program that the chamber would administer, and so we're going to talk about that as well in case some of the other counties are interested in doing something similar. So go ahead.
Great. Well, thanks for the introduction and welcome everyone to your Chamber of Commerce. We recently moved into our new building back in April. This was 10 years in the making. So the Dunn Brothers building sat vacant the last 11 years. And twice a year, I'd call John David Burns and just say, hey, you know, the chamber's growing. We're looking to definitely fill our Main Street empty businesses, but would love to utilize this space. And I was, you know, met with kind no's every year for the last 8 years. And I'd ask about twice a year. And just this last February, I reached out and he said, you know, I've been thinking a lot about you and the work that the chamber's doing and the growth. And this building was always intended to serve more than just Condon. And I sat upstairs with him and his wife on 3 different occasions and secured the lease to this building. And it has opened up so many doors for our Chamber of Commerce, for our members, for our community. So anyway, thank you. None of this would be possible without your guys' support. So again, our mission is to provide leadership to create regional economic prosperity for our members through business development, the support of civic, educational, and cultural events, and the enhancement and promotion of tourism development to ensure thriving communities. Because of your support and collaboration, the Chamber is presently evolving into a Tri-County Regional Chamber of Commerce and Visitor Center. Working hard to increase partnerships and collaboration between our 11 frontier rural communities in Gilliam, Sherman, and Wheeler counties. We're a trusted partner. For the past 30 years, the Chamber has been a trusted partner in supporting local entrepreneurs and small businesses, and now we play a crucial role in strengthening the local economic ecosystem. Since March of 2020, we've added an additional 157 new business partners to our membership, and that's in part to your guys' support. It started at the county, then we went to the cities, we went to the fair boards, to the schools, to the businesses, and this is only going to continue to grow. The Chamber is a convener for regional small businesses, organizations, and our community members. As Brad mentioned, we recently got the attention of Main Street America, and specifically Oregon Main Street, and they are piloting a program, a nationwide program on our rural approach to connecting communities, working with businesses, focusing on Main Street, landscape, streetscape, community events, business promotion. When I first talked to Sherry, this was a relationship that was initiated by Business Oregon. They said, we want you to talk to Main Street America. And I said, okay, yeah, I'll talk to anyone. Well, Sherry and I were visiting and she said, okay, well, which hat do you wear? And who in your community does that? And it was like, it's us, it's the Chamber. She said, well, how many employees do you have? I said, well, it's me, but I work with amazing volunteers and we nurture our relationships that we have with everyone. And she's just really, really impressed. You know, she says, we got to get you some help. You need some capacity help. And that's when I started working with our partners like Reinventing Rural, the SBDCs, just to nurture those relationships so that they could help us continue to do this work throughout the region. We will be hosting a Main Street overview in the next couple of weeks. I'll send out an invitation to you guys if you'd like to attend. Essentially, the Main Street program will help us fix our historical buildings. There's grants that we can apply for. There's funding opportunities for businesses and these historical buildings to, keep our Main Street looking strong and vibrant. Tourism. As you know, tourism is key to our local rural economy sustainability. We serve on the executive board of the Eastern Oregon Visitors Association, which is a regional destination management organization encompassing all 11 counties in Eastern Oregon. Malheur, Harney, Baker, Union, Wallowa, Umatilla, Morrow, Gilliam, Sherman, Wheeler, and Grant counties. This vast region, as you guys know, is geographically diverse. We work with our partners across all of those different communities to spearhead conversations as well as deliverables around agritourism within the John Day River Territory. We work together to cross-promote tours and things that we have going on. Brochures and things are up there at all of our travel and tourism partners. Part of our mission is to inspire travel that drives economic development and generates jobs for our local economies. Tourism for us is more than increasing visitors to our towns. It's helping train and build the knowledge and the skills of our staff that greet those visitors. It's sharing stories about Oregon's people and places with a global audience. It's the small businesses in the farthest reaches of Oregon that flourish because of tourism. The Oregon Tourism Commission stated in 2019 that the annual visitor spending contributed to $352 million to the economy in just the 11 county region of Eastern Oregon. That's significant. So we've got to invest in tourism and the initiatives behind brochure development and collateral material development to keep people coming here. We work really closely with Travel Oregon and Eastern Oregon Visitors Association to create agritourism brochures. It's a John Day River Territory map that starts in Sherman County and ends in Grant County, and it's all around farm tours, agricultural stops that people can do, from horseback riding to local eggs and different things. And from this, we're also going to create some video assets you'll be able to see in the next couple of years. As Liz mentioned, in 2020, the Chamber administered and distributed on behalf of Gilliam County more than $660,000 in COVID-19 relief funding to the business community in Gilliam County. Our grant program was one of the first in the state to launch and was used as a model for others seeking to shore up their local economies. It was good. The COVID relief funding was good, but it wasn't enough. And Gilliam County Court saw the advantages to helping the businesses that maybe did get some COVID relief funding, but to take it to that next level. So following the reopening of our communities, we created with Gilliam County a small business grant program. It was established to assist small business entrepreneurs and organizations to help with business expenses that were reasonable to owning and operating their business. So we contributed some funds to help a business expand, set up outdoor seating, anything that they could do to pivot to continue to keep their business open and running. Was it e-commerce? Was it creating a website? So we were there to help fund that, but also be a great resource. We saw the need was great, and businesses also need our support. Excuse me. So in collaboration with Gilliam County, we are creating an additional small business grant program that will continue to stimulate our economy with the development of new businesses and shoring up the future of our existing. Today, I want to propose to Sherman County and Wheeler County commissioners and judges to consider creating a program very similar to the one that will be administering on behalf of Gilliam County. The concept is a county-wide grant fund funded by the county, administered by the chamber. I'm hoping for a commitment of up to 3 years, something that the businesses can count on. We'd offer 3 separate grant programs with 2 different grant cycles each year: business retention, expansion and growth, business startup, e-commerce and professional development, and creating programs that aren't so stringent, but they can really be customizable to the needs of the businesses in each community. Obviously, we would want to have a program too that is available for emergency uses. The drive-in's ice cream maker breaks down and she needs a little bit of capital to get that purchased. How we can help support these businesses, just having a program available to know that there is something there to offer a little bit of support. The Chamber is a local organization that is best positioned to lead this work. With over 360 business partners, the Chamber serves as a connection point, convening multiple organizations throughout the region, fostering a cohesive bond of support for small businesses, rural entrepreneurship, and economic development. As mentioned, collaboration and partnership are some of our region's greatest assets. It is because of our ability to respond both to current crises and past events that these successful efforts are an example of the impact that what coming together can truly look like to leverage our assets across the region. Together, we can truly make this region stronger. We've got right now, each year the Chamber selects a business of the year. We've opened this up to each county. I encourage you guys to nominate your favorite small business. From there, we'll select, and then there's going to be a $1,000 offering from the SBDC to help the business that's selected with marketing, advertising, any type of assistance that they might need. Here's some upcoming regional events that we have going on tonight. Getting Real and Rural in Fossil. It is sold out, but we could probably fit you in if you wanted to go. Oktoberfest. Oktoberfest is in Ione this weekend. That's to help the Woolery. We've also got the Scholarship Foundation dinner this weekend. Condon Arts Council, a new nonprofit just formed in the community, is now doing young performers theaters. They're going to be offering a lot of different programs throughout the year to our youth. Really excited about that. We also have our Fall Festival coming up on November 20th. This is a premier holiday shopping experience. We have over 65 vendors that'll be here in 3 different locations on our main street. So get a head start on your shopping. Wasco's doing a holiday bazaar, as well as there's one in Grass Valley. We don't have the flyer. Kathy doesn't have that one done yet, but there is a bazaar in Grass Valley and Wasco on December 4th, and then a light festival and parade that evening here in town. The light festival and parade was just an idea that came up 7 years ago. Someone in the community was like, let's have a light parade, a Christmas parade. Last year we had 37 floats. It's huge. We offer photos for Santa for free. Main Street is happening. The businesses see the benefits of these events, people shopping locally, staying at the hotels, the motels. And I'd like to encourage everyone, especially the females in this room, to attend the Small Women's Business Summit. It's on December 8th. We've got panelists and guest speakers to talk about business challenges, where to go to take your next steps, talking about also scheduling and how we have to take care of ourselves in order to be able to take care of our families and our businesses and our communities. So the Rural Women's Business Summit is going to be an incredible opportunity to educate and inspire, uplift, and just really recognize the entrepreneurial women in our lives. New Year's Eve party in Arlington. This is put on by the American Legion out there. It's going to be at PAC's new location, River Ridge Deli, out at the Gronquist building, right next to the golf course there. So the chamber created a regional community calendar that you can go on to. Members or community members can go click on the calendar, and it populates with upcoming educational business trainings, community events. It's one of the best resources for folks that are coming to the area. So it's a lot, a mouthful. I just wanted to give you guys kind of an update on where we're at, where we're headed into the rebranding, and then propose the idea to Wheeler and Sherman County to follow suit. Invest in your businesses and help support the chamber in supporting business growth and opportunity in Sherman, Wheeler, and Gilliam counties. Are there any questions?
Well, I just want to make a comment. That if you didn't do all pictures for everybody in the communities, that possibly that one might have made a difference in terms of accountability for all of that. So, props on your side.
Thank you. If I didn't love my job so much, I would probably do photography full time, but I love our communities, and I know that the work that we're doing matters, and it is making a big difference. The businesses have never felt more supported. The community members have never felt so proud of the towns that they live in. This Tri-County Chamber was a vision of mine when I started 9 years ago. It took a lot of shape-shifting and finessing to get people to see the value of what a regional chamber of commerce could accomplish. So I know I'm not where I need to be just yet, but we are getting there. This ROI grant will help me go into the communities and host these business listening sessions to make sure that we're identifying with what are the needs, what are the capacity gaps, and how we can best integrate into the communities in a way that will be responded to, if that makes any sense. Because I've got to tell you, it's different in every town. It's very, very different. And so it's going to take a little bit of time, but we have made some really, really great progress just this last year. And I want to thank you guys for your support. Hear from you today ideas on maybe what we can do differently or better, and maybe kind of just your initial reaction to how the chamber can make a better impact in your communities. Judge Joe, let's start with you. Okay. Saved by the brownie.
Well, Joe is always around. I wondered if you might talk to us a little bit about the rebranding process. Like,
Yeah.
Like we have coming up.
Yes.
And maybe lay out for us what that looks like, if folks want to engage with that process, how they can involve.
Okay. That's a great question. So November 4th, we're going to have our first workshop. It'll be here in the afternoon, 11 to 2 p.m. We're calling all interested stakeholders to become engaged. Now, we have a membership of 360, right? That's 360 businesses, organizations, community members. Everybody wants to be engaged at a different level. We have no expectations. We want the feedback from those that really want to give it. So November 4th, if you or anyone in your community that you know is inspired by marketing or might want to be part of this really rebranding of the chamber, encourage them to engage. If they can't make the meeting, we'll have it both virtual and in person, but they can send their ideas and suggestions ahead of time. Everyone has said, well, what do you want the name to be? This isn't for me to pick. This is for our community members, our businesses, you guys to help drive this change. I'm being very, very, I don't know. And I'm curious and I'm excited to see what some of the feedback is. Judge Joe did mention he doesn't want it frontier. Is that correct?
Everything is frontier.
Everything is frontier. So we'll have that initial workshop. We'll also send out surveys with here's kind of, some of the names that have been suggested so folks can comment on that. We'll then narrow it down. It'll be a very cohesive process in terms of how the information is communicated all the way through. So even if people aren't engaging, they're still going to be brought along so that, you know, when the name change does officially happen and the rebranding, no one's like, oh my gosh, how did that happen? Or did I miss an email? It's like, well, maybe 35 of them, but you know, that's okay. It's okay.
Still will miss the email.
They will. But it's exciting. We hired an agency just out of Bend. And it's real ironic that the day I called Jor-El, she had just stayed in Condon the night before. No connection. We'd never made any sort of a introduction before. And she said, you know, first of all, how'd you get my number? And I was just in your town last night. And I said, well, I kind of feel like this might just be meant to be. So that'll be the process. I'm hoping to have the name change and everything when we go out for our membership recruitment in January. So.
Do folks have questions, feedback? Or share with?
I'm still curious what Judge Joe thinks.
I'm curious what the question was again.
Well, what do you think the chamber can do to have a better presence in Sherman County? How can we provide a service that's so valuable to Sherman County when we make a request to help fund co-starters or fund a grant program that you don't even blink your eyes? You're like, absolutely.
Well, that's a hard question to answer because if we've never had one, we're not sure what to expect. We are seeing your presence. I mean, we're hearing, you know, I don't remember so much about the fair, but I remember the Wasco parade. You were there, you were everywhere. And we're short of volunteers there, so you've made a difference. But to ask what we need to make it, or what we'd like to make you invaluable, it's a little bit hard to answer that because we never had it. So we don't know what we need.
Mm-hmm. Well, what do you think about creating a small business grant program? Is that something that, you know, you guys think is a good idea, commissioners? I mean, I'm curious what you guys think. I was just talking to Amy McNamee on Monday, and she said, you know, there's somebody who's interested in opening up the goose pit, but they need capital. And I said, well, we're working on a grant program out here. And she said, we need something like that.
Well, is it a loan?
Well, Sherman Development League, I mean, it's grants for nonprofits, but it's a loan for the business side. And they've been burned on a restaurant, and I would say they're probably going to be a little gun shy, yeah.
Because that is county law, that go that way. And of course, the economic development district, we have a lot of money, you know, they do a lot of that.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So I guess my comment in regards to Joe is just what would the businesses want to see from
Mm-hmm.
that? I guess that's.
And we really haven't had too much input. I know that there's the development league, so yeah, nobody's reached out to us.
Okay, great.
So
Well, it's good to have, you know, something to think about too. I did apply for a Sherman County Cultural Coalition grant, was successfully awarded that. We'll be throwing our first annual Sherman County Harvest Festival, hoping after harvest this year. And that will be everything from kids' activities and games to, you know, history on farming, and will be a big party. But in the survey I put out to Sherman County, that's a need. People want community events. They want to engage. And, you know, the chamber plays a number of different roles, from economic development to community events and engagements. And so, like I said, every community, every county is going to be a little bit different. We're just looking for that feedback and really good communication from you guys.
So how much feedback did you get from Sherman County? Did you, I mean, that you just sent out a survey. Is that over?
Yeah, we closed it, and I presented those results to you guys in the Sherman County report.
Okay,
When is the Harvest Fest?
We don't have a date set yet. I just got news on Monday that the grant was awarded, so now the planning begins. Just like Brad said, you've got to buy into the work that the chamber's doing. And so the budget request, that wasn't funded, no problem. We'll continue to work hard so that you see the value. But in order to throw an event, we have to have, that funding. And so start there and then continue to grow.
So I don't represent any of these towns, well, I work for the towns, but I don't represent any of these, but I will say, it would be good to have a visitor view of what's going on, because a lot of times, when I travel in places, I'm like, I'm gonna be in Pearl City after a certain time at night, I know I'm gonna have to eat a lot, because that's the only thing. But I know that, but not everybody does. Or I better bring some groceries. Or, there's just a lot of things that visitors have to make. And so I think when you're thinking about that, and I know Wheeler County is interested in this in terms of building up more visitor resources. So if you could also think about that, I think it would be helpful. It's for me. I mean, that's generally speaking, that's like the baby. And someplace to get dinner.
So just a couple of things. So there was, I believe, and I've heard two different numbers, but I think it's $7 million was allocated by the legislator for technical assistance, okay? So there was a big chunk of technical assistance that we helped. We worked with communities through the CARES Act, federal money that came from Business Oregon. And that technical assistance was direct technical assistance, unlike kind of some other things. So we helped small businesses that needed graphics. We helped small businesses that needed to talk to a bookkeeper. We helped connect small businesses with a lawyer because they need a partnership agreement or something. So there's kind of a different thing. That, I believe, the RFP is coming back out for that any day now. I think it's being reviewed by Justice. But when that comes out, I'm pretty certain that we'll be again partnering with Rural Development Initiatives on that. And we're going to have this kind of technical assistance. We're going to be, with those funds, looking for someone like, the chamber to say, what businesses are out there that really desperately need some of this help? Because a large portion of that is specifically one BIPOC and also rural. So our percentage of this will be in the rural communities. That's how we did Google My Business. 95% of people will search on Google for something in a community when they're in a community, don't know what it is. 65% of them, if they see a good Google My Business listing, will go to that business within that next 24 hours. That's had a huge impact in Harnett County, in those communities. So we're hoping that we'll be able to bring something like that here, funded through some of this technical assistance stuff. And that will be, that will help you because then you'll be like, oh, I'm in, Prairie City, places to eat, near me. Where can I get a good cup of coffee? Roan Cafe, whatever the Roan is called these days. But there should be funding coming through that our legislators looked at and realized that this technical assistance program, which was unique, there's never been money to help a small business get a logo before. Okay, it's like you got to come up with a logo. We're hoping that we're excited about that, being able to bring those kinds of resources to communities like yours.
I'd just say that from the business grant program that we're looking at, COVID, as bad as it was for everybody, it did kind of open the eyes on trying to assist businesses through the counties, just like you guys, doesn't do anything for anybody but nonprofits and those type of things. Kind of open that door for working away and having to help businesses. And so, with what Kane's approach is with, it's an entity that we can pass those funds to. County do some actual systems to small businesses, which, for the most part, kind of just work.
And nothing against it, I think that they're an incredible organization. Terry Crittenden, I've worked with her for years. But could you support the chamber's effort in this 3-county approach to where we are offering a grant program for Rural County Community Foundation? So it makes sense. It makes sense to these businesses that there's, one place to go. How much are you planning?
We are still working that out. The initial discussion that we talked about was 3-year commitment, a minimum of 65
And then my suggestion to the court was, leave the door open. If the need and the demand is great, we can come back and let you know. If it's not, we can adjust and we can create different programs to really make a meaningful impact on what it is at the time that these businesses need. Is it facade improvements, right, Tammy, for our main streets, so our businesses don't just look so empty? Is it fixing up these vacant buildings so that there is some incentive for a new business to come in and invest in it because it already looks ready to go? I just think that there's a lot of ways that we can work together, supporting one another, that will really give credibility to everyone, the county and the chamber and the businesses and the cities. It's a good thing for what?
One of the things we did that I thought when we did the COVID relief dollars, was we, as part of the requirement for even applying and receiving the funds, we required the businesses to do a consultation with the Small Business Development Council. And what we were finding was folks were even having a hard time applying because we were requiring financials, and their financials were so, that's not, for a small business person, usually they're in it because they're interested in whatever the thing they wanted. And the financials was something that was very difficult for people. And so even just having a session with Greg, I bet we had probably 20 businesses between all of our communities that got that free help. And then they also know that that resource is there. And so that's something we discussed when we were talking about our grant program that we're thinking about rolling out, is that making that sort of a requirement as well, that sort of ongoing sort of communication with some of the other regional partners, just trying to connect folks so that they have that higher chance of, okay, you've gotten it off the ground and now you hit your first sort of roadblock. Who are the people in the community that I can reach back out to and kind of problem solve my way through it? So I just wanted to throw that out because I thought in addition to the actual money, we kind of tied a technical assistance thing to it. And I think a lot of our businesses now can see the financial picture where before they were sort of struggling with that. And I think that was a huge benefit coming out of the pandemic for our folks to have a better handle on their finances.
And they're stronger now,
Yeah.
right? They're ready for tax season.
And Nate had asked me about how this co-starter is working with the SBDC. Well, Andrea Latham is an SBDC business consultant delivering co-starters. We believe that this, these are bookends almost in a way. Co-starters is from one side and your SBDC comes from the other, and we do the same thing. First thing I do is we, in Corvallis Foundry, one of the locations we run, SBDC had a desk there. It's like, have you talked to an SBDC business consultant? Well, most of the time it's like, what's that? Who's that? It's America's best kept secret. It's like, well, here's Ann Whittington's card, get time with her, because they are the ongoing business consultants. And then there's other stuff. Google My Business. How do you build a following on YouTube? Should you build your e-commerce platform on Wix or Shopify or WooCommerce? And those are things that we lean into more on that side of it. But almost all small businesses financials are still.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we were getting handwritten things that it was like, wow, having a QuickBooks lesson here would be phenomenal, I think, for a lot of those sorts of things. I was just surprised seeing, because we had a lot of people who, in the county, we acted very quickly to put money out there, and the hardest obstacle was folks, when they were applying, getting their financials together, which was not what I expected. But it was consistent. It wasn't one or two. It was a lot of our Main Street businesses.
I think that points to the frailty of a lot of our small businesses who are just hanging on to the edge. Okay, they're keeping books on paper. They're not keeping friends. There's a lot of things that are just keeping on. The heads are down, just keeping the lights on and doing business day to day to day. And the support that these small businesses got, COVID only simply created unfortunately an environment where we started to realize how tenuous many small businesses are across our spectrum. And this is a shot that, did even more to it, but this is gonna still be there even after we come through this. These businesses still need that ongoing support of, connecting with, figuring out how to do their books, getting a good partner, getting a good contract written, whatever these things may be. And it's so important. And then, what we want to make sure and do is when you have a beautiful downtown building, that the business that goes into it has gone through something like a co-starter program and has an SBDC business consultant. So they're opening the right business there, because the last thing you want, Reedsport is now to the point where some of these beautiful storefronts that have 4 and 5 businesses in the last 2 or 3 years, that building is now cursed. Okay, that's a problem. That's hard to overcome, because now people are saying you can't start a business in downtown Reedsport, and that's even worse. And quite honestly, 4 of those 5 businesses should never have been started in the location. They should have gone through a co-starters and realized that that was a bad idea and pivoted and changed and said, okay, I'm not gonna, do a shop just because I love reptiles. A reptile shop is not gonna work in Reedsport. Which was one of their businesses.
What do you think, Judge Farley?
I'm gonna leave that up to our economic development director, Matt Davis.
Yeah,
He's been working with you folks.
Matt's dynamic. We're doing some great projects in Mitchell right now. The city council is looking at going one way on their main street and haven't really done any research. And so we brought in Oregon Main Street and ODOT to help convene community listening sessions around what are the benefits and how will this impact our community. So the chamber's an incredible resource for existing businesses, new businesses, and just encourage you, any conversations that you're having with your entrepreneurs or established businesses, that they're connecting with the chamber. It's an affordable membership fee, and we offer a lot. Those trainings, that Brad's talking about, books, we're connecting them with them all the time. Links to these virtual trainings so that they can get the QuickBooks, professional development that they need. We're not the ones facilitating the training, thankfully, right? 10 years ago, I thought I was the one that had to do all of that. I don't. I have to work with my partners and just get this information out to our members. So.
And I will say for those who, like a chamber is new to your county, sort of the ground level is almost anything that we do from Gilliam County that we need to reach the community, we use the chamber. So.
We use Tammy.
Yeah. But you know what I'm saying? It's like, if we have a survey we're putting out about fiber, we use the chamber. Anytime we need to reach them, because at least in our communities, folks know, regardless of whether it's something that's really in Kaylin's wheelhouse, they go to Kaylin because they know that if she doesn't have the answer, she knows who is working on what. And so that to us is a value, I think. We use that all the time to reach out to folks about things that we're doing, especially during the pandemic.
But you say we've done service roles through the health district.
Yeah, so a lot of our government work, when we're trying to figure out, not everybody takes the paper, and those kinds of, we try to find every avenue for, at least for our communities. The chamber has ended up being one of those sources where people go to find out what's happening in the community.
That's
So.
obvious, as many people have opened the door.
Yeah.
In my presentation, I talked about a Tri-County Chamber of Growth Partnership. I stole that from Erie County, Pennsylvania, which is of course a large county. It's also the poorest county in the entire state of Pennsylvania. But what they've been able to do is they've become kind of this overarching organization that has helped pull in other resources and partners. And that's one of the things I think why Harney County has been so successful. This High Desert Partnership has filled that role there and really been kind of the convener of different people coming into the room and collaborating and cooperating. We work in counties and communities that don't have that. And it's much more difficult because there's nobody there that can pull groups of people together and convene these kinds of conversations. She introduced me to Matt. Matt is the impetus of tonight's event in Fossil. We met last time I was here and grabbed lunch at Dig In Diner, And I said, hey, I'll come out and do it again. And he said, great, when you come back out? I said, come back out for this. And we ran with it. And we're gonna have 30 people, in Fossil tonight. And that's the kind of stuff that the chamber, and Kaylin, just by nature of Kaylin, she didn't need a chamber act, she just did anyway. Didn't pay her. But those kinds of things really help facilitate the conversation. And one final thing about Harney County, when I talk to places that have seen what has happened in Harney County, that they're like, oh, well, they've got Spark Collaborative Studios, and oh, they've got the Central Hotel, they got all these things going on. They didn't have any of that 3 years ago. They made these transformations in 3 years. This is not a 5-year, 10-year, 20-year process. They've made significant changes in that county in 3 years. And I talked to Brookings and Coquille, and I'm like, this isn't a 20-year project plan. You can do this in 2 years. You can have really good stuff happening in 3 years. People can be saying, oh, look at all the great stuff they've got.
And we met here recently with Ann Gills and Port Arlington, engineer, and just had a little group and discuss a project that Ann Gills is looking at. Another example.
Yeah, and Tammy's got a busy job, Joe, so if I could take anything out of her plate. She can do that work.
You guys didn't know you were coming to the
I don't want to come to the county and ask for money without providing a service that's so valuable that you guys understand why investing in the chamber is important. So please know that I want to do something for you instead of just asking for money. So please take everything that was said today into consideration.
I think someone's making a list of the things she doesn't.
Know that I'm humbled that you all joined today to have the meeting here at the chamber, and that I'm just so excited about this opportunity of this regional chamber of commerce visitor center and partnership. I'd love to create another arm off of the chamber where we can do some additional grants and support to the communities.
Anything else on this?
Thank you.
I will just add that Gilliam was like the star player on our making the economic resilience team we were doing after COVID.
Thanks.
I'm excited about the capacity you're going
Thanks, Nate. That means a lot. I serve also on the East Cascade Works board, and that's on workforce. They never had someone from rural Oregon on their board before, and I said, well, I don't know if I have a lot to add, and she said, we've never had small town rural voice before, and it's been incredible, the conversation. I'm learning a lot. I know that they're learning a lot. Yesterday, Travel Oregon facilitated a tourism kind of debriefing, and this was again across Eastern Oregon. And one of the gals said, well, we need to connect with urban folks and let them know that we're all the same. And I said, no, we're not. We're not the same, and that's okay. Let's celebrate our differences. Let's get to know each other, and it is okay that we're not the same. Rural and urban are different. And I think that we're unique in the fact that we are different, and we can really customize and bend to what the needs are of our communities. We're so blessed to be able to do that, actually. Not very many people can. I think our kids benefit from that too, in the classrooms, teachers that see the different things that are going to help our kids learn and grow. They're able to adjust that style of that child, and we can do that out here. We don't have 50,000 businesses. We've got enough that we can really help each and every one of them get to where they want to go. It's exciting, don't you think?
Anything else on that?
Thank you.
Hey, Jeff, Caitlin, thanks, guys.
Other hot topics? What's going on? You guys want to talk about anything?
I was on the phone with my side business, that's why I stepped out.
There you go, he's gonna sound keep going, all right.
And I was trying to get the seed in the ground, so farming, so. What happened, we're learning a lot about windmills in construction. None of us were involved when the last time it happened.
We're beginning to learn about solar.
Like you guys have got solar panels on that.
How big is that the one on Shepherd's Flat?
1,600 acres.
Wow, that's pretty big. That's 16 times bigger than ours.
That means install time.
What's that?
The shepherd's flag is that, then you install now, you want to fully.
Substations, and I haven't been across there.
Substation is, I don't know if it's complete, but the hard stuff's all around. Because I don't think I have it all typed together on that, but, and the power lines are in from that substation to the other substation out on Tree Lane. But what I haven't been through there for a day or two either, and the posts or whatever that they're putting in, or taking off from the panels themselves is wild. And they have a boundary marked out, or boundary marked out, the whole project.
Well, these are, when they signed up for the project 18 years ago, we just put in 0.75s turbos. And now these that are going in are 4.3s, 4.8s, the largest in the continental United States. And so all of a sudden, 3-4 times as much ground at least is being moved per, and some of the biggest cranes out there. So we're hearing a lot about it.
We're going through some of that with the repower on Get Flat, where they're sizing them up from what they were. It's actually 12 of the original turbines that they can't change because they're too close to the boundary and too much setback. We're doing 360.
So how many, if you're having window issues in your chat?
We're not having window issues, they're just getting built and we hear about it.
Okay, well, if there's anything, just fix it.
Mostly-
If the ground is disturbing, that's.
Because it's 5-6 times more ground being disturbed.
It's all right, somebody.
Oh no, it's just the land. A lot of dust and, they have to build special roads to move the cranes. They can't, and then when they drive the crane, they drove across which Justin was telling me, they drove across the road. That wasn't really a big crane, was it? Wasn't it one of the smaller ones?
I think it was one of the work trains that went across them. I mean, they put down the little timbers, the mats that they run on that spread out the weight that even going across an established gravel road that's been there for I don't know how long. It's still sunk into the actual gravel road impression of that pad. Bring them across to this new basic.
So we hear a lot about it, and it's
But they do say they'll fix them up as they work.
they say better,
Better.
they say is good or better. We have a pretty hefty road usage.
You have a road usage.
Yeah, and we're out there, our roadmaster had hair, he'd be pulling it out all the time. He assigned some of those duties to the deputies, and so you guys do this all the time. But it's an interesting project, and, yeah.
I have a question for you guys. We've been talking about whether or not to invest some of our ARPA funds in those AOC programs, the water and housing. What are you guys doing with your ARPA funds? Have you guys decided yet?
Part of them we've already invested in water, or we allocated half of what we got into a water project in bids, because it's like everything else, it comes in $1 million over budget. Every project we did, or thinking about, came in $1 million over budget, so that's an magic number. But anyway, so we allocated right up top half of it to the water project, and it was more hiring an engineer, a consultant, No, and actually, it's not even a water project, it was to sewer. Because the county is the big service district. Big is not a town, it's a special district, and we're the board. And they built a sewer plant 23 years ago, and nobody's looked at it since. So it's time to have somebody check that puppy out.
As well as the water project.
And we got a water project that's $1 million over.
So
budget.
are you looking at, Andy Smith with Community Solutions is putting together programs with the counties, and he's asked each county to spend $25,000 a year to get in the system and start looking at the needs. And we kind of backed out initially because our ARPA funds are $7,000, whatever it is. And it's gonna be 2 years, we're looking at 50,000 on that, and so, and I told him, I talked to the person, I told him, that's not fair, it's the same amount of Young County, small one county.
Yeah, and you have two
Yeah,
cases.
yeah,
So we haven't, you know,
So
we haven't
he's,
even entertained the idea.
and what he said was, and he's gonna be at our next county court meeting to kind of talk us and customize those to the counties and their needs. And it won't necessarily cost you the $25,000, but just like the good participation and what you need from us. And so we're gonna have that conversation with you. If that's what you want.
I guess I don't know. I guess I'd like to see what you offer us.
To get some of our money to do
Yeah.
so. He's gonna be really something for the counties, what we might need for water and such, but.
So one is like for housing, they're talking about maybe capacity funds for housing, and then on water, it's like a water needs forum, roundtable.
Yeah,
that-
just to find the needs.
So District Oregon and LOC are doing a survey of every water and wastewater system in the state to figure out the needs in the community. So I wonder how that overlaps with what AOC is doing.
We just paid to have, we had a available housing and lands inventory for each one of the towns. We just completed that. In fact, Kurt Fatlin did the last one. We started that 3 years ago with, they did Grass Valley, and that was, we did that, it was piggybacking on our economic needs, available lands for commercial stuff. So we just completed all of that, the housing and available lands, and so it's kind of, you know, we're gonna throw money at something that AOC is doing that we just did.
Might not make sense for you guys.
Yeah, we just did it, so.
Well, then the business ordinance, right?
Well, I don't know the scope of what AOC is proposing or how it would overlap. I mean, so like, my
Right.
head, there's technical systems where you all want to know water and wastewater facilities for sure now. So I don't know if AOC is into that like this is.
Yeah,
So it is,
Yeah,
and
because
it gets useful for.
yeah.
we're using the CAD as our technical, not our technical support, but well, anytime things are not going quite right, or we need, yeah, we call Carrie, we call Jackie, and we say, hey, our water feasibility study, or what did we come up with? And they help dig that up, and they're helping us establish rates and how all the conversations, they're right there, so I don't see how AOC is gonna do more than the CAD. We kind of use the CAD, we use them a lot.
Well, and you have Carrie.
Well, see, that's the thing, we got Carrie in the CAD, even though Carrie has got promoted, guess who gets the phone call? Carrie, because she's on the speaker.
She'll always be your person. It doesn't matter.
I think that's important. It goes back to catering and the chamber. And the reason that you guys are looking at a tri-county chamber is also because it gives in and her networks and relationships. So I think you're right, Joe. I think having those relationships tracked and investing in those is, kind of key to getting things done.
And the CAD's actually been the only thing that's been there consistent through this water project from day one. We're all different. I mean, they started that project, you went on the binder the other day, was it 2003?
Wow.
So they did the first water feasibility study for Biggs in 2003. And CAD was on board from day one. So they have all the kind of historical knowledge, because Gary's no longer here. We're all different, and we're trying to get it done so we don't have to have historical knowledge.
You know, businesses when they are supplying their water, it's off a few little private sources, so it's pretty, I mean, businesses were saying they lose pressure for a second on whatever system they're on, and they're under a boil water notice until they get their samples.
And then, like,
That's busy there.
last year, one time, they had a tote of whatever their super chlorine is called. And anyway, they reset it that night and it tipped over and 30 gallons of super chlorine got into the system. And Chico, California is calling me saying, who do we talk to at the sewer plant to get them to where this is coming through? It's going to kill the plant. How do we get it stopped? And we need something a little better than that. And so, happen to have a son-in-law who lives 100 feet from me, and he's a plumber, get down there and help fix it. And then, just like Chico, California, when I talk to them, they talk about Alex, my son-in-law. He's the person they call if there's any issues. They run the water in Pilot, Easy Trip, a motel, right there, and 2 convenience stores. That all comes off of a water system that Pilot owns.
Wow.
Yeah, so, so then there's 2 other ones on the other side. Yeah, so we're gonna have a 400,000 gallon tank up on the hill. We've already drilled the well, got 200 gallons a minute, and we're gonna start digging November 15th. Yeah, so so Biggs is a cluster. Stay out of Biggs and let's get, we want you to support Biggs, but just know, turbine stuff is coming through. They're gonna be digging everything out.
I was turned off the whole can.
People will start hauling wheat down. They'll be hauling wheat down in the elevator somewhere in there. Once season is over, so Biggs will be a cluster.
Well, that's what it's big for.
I guess it always is, so. But no, that'll be nice. We're gonna have fire hydrants.
Wow.
Yeah.
There you go, yeah.
What are you guys using your ARPA funds for?
What's that?
Your ARPA funds, what are you guys using?
I have no idea.
Haven't decided yet?
No.
What's ARPA stand for? American
Rescue.
Okay. It's the latest, it's the last COVID funds.
It would have been volunteer.
Yes, it was when the Biden CARES Act was passed.
Rescue. I can send you all the applications for the county and city.
Yeah, please. We.
And then the treasury guidance.
$370, what Gilliam County.
I think it was 3 or 100.
Free something.
180, 70, 100.
And then I get the rest
You get half of it, half of this spring.
I don't know. Yeah, it might be. I think
It's
it's
having.
That was terrible trying to get that, holding your phone, scanning your face. It took me like 8 days to get through.
Well, so when you request the funds to the treasury, for some, I haven't experienced this, but Matt was telling me about, you have to do treasury takes a face print.
Yeah.
And I think there's people who are freaked out about the face print. But, and when you request the funds, you don't have to say how you're going to use it. You have the treasury guide somewhere. But you don't have to submit a line item. This is exactly how we so, but I'll send you it, I'll send you it.
Last I heard, there was 8 or 12 cities in the state that had not applied for all.
They forward that to the mayor and,
I talked to him personally about
Well, you'll get frustrated putting in for it. I don't know who put it in for it. And it was, I was sending emails, I need help, I need help, I need help to their hotline. It was ID me and, you know, scan me. And finally I got on Skype and they're looking at me holding my driver's license, and it's all your personal information. You have to give them, you know, whoever's doing it, your social security number, your driver's license number. So you personally have to get in there, and it's a little bit spooky.
Yeah, I will say, Kathy, I'm sure you've heard that, but some feedback for your boss is that is really unworkable in a county, and then, because like our treasurer opened it up because we had a separation of duties, our treasurer needed to open it because he's responsible for the money, but the county's responsible for spending and reporting, and so it's confusing on like, I mean, we missed a filing deadline, they had to come tell us that we were, I mean, it was all kinds of confusing when there, I get if it was like for a vendor that the feds are doing, but for county governments where you intentionally separate duties to protect public money, it's really not a very good
The
system.
money went to her, but I did it, so I was getting all the emails.
Yeah.
And then another county reached out to me, and they're saying, we heard you had some trouble, because I called AOC and said, this is unreal trying to get through there. And Tammy, you know, every day, she'd know I'd be sitting there working on it for a couple hours and not get through. And there was a, you know, county chair that was getting pretty upset about their treasurer administrator not getting their money. And I said, well, you gotta, it is a really hard thing to get through, and nobody helps you. Here's a hotline, here's a email address, nobody responds to your help. It took me 8 days before I got help, and it was every day asking for it. So.
Okay, well, thanks for
Feedback.
Thanks for letting me know. I mean, I will be sure and let Ron know. You know, part of the reason we got the direct allocations to the cities and the counties was because counties have been asking. They were really frustrated about the money going through the governor's office. And so, you know, Ron put in a full court request to make sure that the money came directly to the cities and the counties. But it sounds like Treasury didn't.
Yeah, the direct allocation, great, because we spent a lot of time arguing with the governor's office over that money coming to us. So, but hopefully we never have to do this again. But if you guys decide you want to give us money in the future, maybe look at how that system is used.
That's a third party, that IDE is a third party in security, right? They need just more, personally, if they just had more help, somebody to hit respond when they're asking for help.
I think Treasury's been understaffed for a really long time, and they've had, you know, we've had a lot of requests to IOS for people. You know, they shut down for a few months. But I think you're right. I think a program that's bigger definitely should bring enough people to fight them. Assistance to make it easier for you guys to work through it. And still have the security on front. Because I think, you know, I mean, you sure wouldn't want hackers over there watching your
Exactly. But it is kind of, because understandably, like our treasurer, because he put all his personal information in, didn't want to give me access to that thing where all of his personal information is there, but he's not responsible for making decisions about spending it. And so the reporting, it's like we intentionally separate those, and the system that the feds are asking us to use assumes that one person's in charge of everything, and that's not how counties operate.
Okay. No, that's super. That is super helpful. I think it's helpful.
Yeah. I didn't realize it was an issue until we missed our filing deadline, and our treasurer was like, I don't know what to put in here, I'm not in charge of spending the money, I'm only in charge of receiving the money, so.
So me doing it wrong was right.
Correct. Any other pieces of hot topic that we want to? I think the next meeting, I'm trying to remember, is our next meeting Wheeler County?
Yeah, because
Okay.
the minutes here say,
From Sherman.
Sherman.
It's been so long since we met.
well, I was seeing Kayla's name on there. Kayla's, wow, that's been a while.
So, do you guys want to set the date for the next one and assume that usually we do this once a quarter, so I think it would be January? You guys okay with hosting in January?
Wheeler County.
Yeah, Wheeler County. Maybe like,
I don't know what day.
we usually do Wednesdays, I think usually the fourth Wednesday of the month, every quarter, so that'd be the 26th of January. That work for you guys? I'm putting it on so we, because it was so nice to see everybody, I want to make sure that we don't.
You're saying we'll go.
I'll send you a reminder.
Name, it's called the name list.
Yes, I'm good at that. So we'll plan on the 26th, 2022 in Fossil.
That's just right around the corner. I can't believe it.
11 again.
Yeah, 11 works for us.
Would you guys like me to find a guest speaker? Is there anything you'd like to have? Just let me know.
Yeah, I think maybe coordinate with their admin staff. So each, as it rotates, each court's admin kind of takes charge of putting together the agenda, so. So we have some ideas. Definitely, maybe. Is it like that? Yeah. Or you can forward it to us. We can agenda, so. Okay, I'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting.